ladies, to our little brain health, gut health, get yourself, healthy for the holidays. A talk that Yvonne and I are going to do today, and we're super excited to share with you. Just some few tips and things that we've learned, and just help you live your healthiest this year. And so I don't know if I could ask you, is there a couple of things that concern you about your health, or going into the holidays, some things that you're like, is it going to be one of those years, because the average American gains between 7 and 10 pounds through the holiday season. So is there anything that's concerning you?
I eat much. Push away from the table.
Push away from the table. Yeah. I love it. I always eat when I'm upset.
Okay.
Upset or stressed? Which one? Or both?
I guess stress would be better, because it gives me something to do with my hands, hand to mouth. I know what that is, but I think it's my response to not being in charge of whatever's happening, not being in control of whatever's happening, not in charge but in control. And so, okay, well, I can control what I eat, so let's eat. I think I've figured that out through all these years. But
that's very real. That's very real for a lot of people. I know I've struggled with that too in the past, so I totally hear that. So, so here we are, right? Next Thursday already Thanksgiving, and then it's just going to be a blink, and Christmas, New Year's, it's just going to be a blur of the holidays. So for many of us, it's a time of travel, a time of family, lots of gatherings, fun, and food, right? And so what I want to share with you today is just some tips about how food actually affects our mood, and how that interconnection between the gut health and the brain. With our gut health, we think, okay, just food. We don't really understand the importance that your immune system, 90% of your immune system is based on your gut health. So the healthier your gut is, the better your body is fighting off infection, inflammation. The other thing to remember is that your gut is your second brain. So in utero, when the cells are dividing, one becomes your brain, one becomes your digestive tract. And so they are connected through what's called your vagus nerve. So there's like a super highway going from your brain to your stomach. So I don't know if you've ever, been, like you were saying, when you get upset or stressed, it triggers you to want to eat. So there's a connection between the brain and the gut. So maybe sometimes when you get stressed, you get a tummy ache, or you're anxious about something, you get pain in your side. So that's because they're so interconnected via the nervous system. And so I just want to kind of give you a few things today to help you to navigate that a little bit differently this holiday season. So, how we think, how we think about food in a different way as well. So, also with the holidays, we get into all the anxiety, depression, low energy as we're going, and it just seems everything we kind of deal with on a regular basis, it quadruples over the holidays, because everything is just busier. We're going to, you go to the office and there's, cookie platters and all kinds of food that, you get exposed to them, but it's just so much all at once. And, it's not a coincidence that we have more colds and flus during this time of season, because our immune system is going down. So it basically starts back at Halloween, when we're just sugar, and then we keep going, right? Thanksgiving, all kinds of pies, very simple carb type foods, which are converted directly to sugar. And then we get into all the cookies and candies, and it just goes on and on and on. And then we get into Valentine's. I mean, and because of all that sugar affects our immune system. So sugar is very acidic, very addictive, and very inflammatory for the body. Right now, a lot of people are concerned, that having elderly parents dealing with Alzheimer's, dementia, and all that stuff. So that is now called type 3 diabetes. And it's, they're finding out now that it's related to all of this, processed foods, sugary type foods. And studies show that we actually have the symptoms of Alzheimer's about 25 to 30 years before we ever have a symptom of forgetfulness and all that. So it's really important to be thinking positively and making positive changes with your connection with how you think about food and how you address food, because that's going to change how your brain is functioning. So it's really, really important to think about that. So, I just want to share a few insights today to think about how we're not going to have all that bloating, holiday weight gain, how to not have the effects so severely on our mood, right? So we tend to get more anxious, highest rates of depression are over the holiday season. And because there's so much emotional connection tied to the holidays, in addition to this combination of like very, very heavy, rich foods, very, very sugary foods, as well as gluten, artificial colors and flavors, preservatives. So much of that we're just really bombarded with it over the holiday season. And then not to mention extra, fatigue of travel, just kind of out of your normal routine. So all of that sets up a perfect storm for our bodies to start breaking down. If you think about your health, right? So if you think of like 100%, so 80% is your nutrition, right? So you cannot outrun your fork. So what's on the end of your fork either adds to your health or it subtracts from your health. 10% is your exercise, staying active, and then the other 10% is your genetics. And so, we can, with new studies now with epigenetics, you can turn on and turn off those genetics to some degree. So you're in control of 90% of your health destiny. So it's just learning how do we maximize that. So when you dive into the etiology of various diseases and chronic things that people are dealing with, everything from diabetes, heart disease, autoimmune, even anxiety and depression, all of those things are related. Those are all chronic inflammation. So I already kind of mentioned, like, what's the number one trigger and driver of inflammation? Sugar, right? So other things include, gluten type foods, dairy is very allergenic and acidic to the body as well. So, but all of those things, if 95% of our diseases out there are inflammation based, we should be doing things and looking at things differently of how we can lower that inflammation down. And so I'm going to give you a couple of tips today. So most of our holiday foods, mainly sugar, right? Lots of simple carbs, heavy on the potatoes, heavy on the breads, and all of that, right? If you just think about next week, Thanksgiving dinner, traditional type Thanksgiving dinner, right? Heavy, heavy carbs, right? Heavy, heavy sugars. And then that's why after it's over, we're on the couch and a food come up, right? Because we're just like, ugh, we can hardly breathe, our belly hurts, we want to take a nap. Because of that huge dump of sugar and it spikes our insulin. So our insulin is a hormone that regulates our sugar down, right? But it's also our fat storing hormone. So this is where this whole, weight gain happens because of the huge influx of sugar that we're eating. So our body cannot regulate it down, and so that extra that it can't regulate down, it turns into fat. Right? So that's because of it being our fat storage hormone, that's where this holiday weight gain comes from. So we need to just think about, I'm not saying never eat a holiday cookie, I'm just saying we need to dial it back and understand that every time we do eat one, that inflammation response is spiking our inflammation response in our body. The other thing that gets spiked, that they go hand in hand with insulin, is cortisol. So you may have heard, cortisol, like adrenal fatigue, things like that. So those go hand in hand. So when one's going up and down, they kind of travel together, and they're both hormones. And for women, as ladies, we always have this, we hear this whole hormone imbalance thing. And sometimes we think, oh, it's just like reproductive hormones. But there's a lot of hormones in our body. So understanding, it matters. It's like a domino effect, because when our insulin, which is a hormone, gets out of balance, it starts to affect our reproductive type hormones as well. So important on that. So I like to use this chart because it kind of shows a little bit about toxic overload and inflammation. So we take in toxins 3 ways, right? So the air we breathe. So right now with all the fires and stuff, the air quality has not been very good. So a lot of toxic bloat is coming into our body, through our skin, right? The things that we're putting on our skin, and then what we're eating. So what we're digesting and eating. So those come into our body, our liver has to process it. So our liver is our master detoxifier. So when it can't process it, it's going to process it one of two ways. So anything that's excess is going to get stored over here in the fat cells, bone marrow, or liver, your central nervous system. Otherwise, over here, if it's water soluble, it's going to be getting those toxins and overload inflammation, joints, blood, tissues, and muscles. So that's a lot of times when we're eating these really high sugary foods, we'll have a tendency to have more aches and pains in our joints and our muscles, and feel that achy arthritis type pain. If you think about the definition of arthritis, right? That means inflammation of the joint. So anything that's itis means inflammation. So there's so many things out there that are like itis type chronic diseases. Those are based on inflammation. So if we can dial back the inflammation, and we know the biggest way we can do that is through our food, it's going to make a huge difference in how we're feeling on a day-to-day basis.
And see, that's me. I don't have to eat food, but I love sweets. So I come home sometime, I won't even eat dinner all day, but I'll have a cookie or I'll have a donut, and I'm satisfied. But I don't have to eat no rice, no meat, so I'm just a sugar fanatic.
So it just so the sugar is basically keeping your energy level up.
Yeah.
So that's what happens. We kind of get on this roller coaster thing. We eat something, it zooms up our energy, and then we kind of hit a crash.
Because I don't have to have food at all.
And then it's like, oh my gosh, I need something. So then we grab, so maybe for breakfast we have a bagel or pastry or something, zoom it up, we feel energetic, and then we crash and burn because of that excess spike in insulin. Then it's, our insulin's going to respond, so it's going to try to bring that blood sugar back down. And then we kind of get down here, and then we get that kind of hangry, right, where we're sort of crabby, irritable, and then we grab for chips, we grab for another muffin or something, boom, here we go again, pizza or something. So here we go up, and then we crash again. So this is how most of us eat, all like that. So by understanding how do you change not only what you're eating, but what the components of your eating are. That's super important. So I kind of gave this example the other day. If you think about, if you had 3 bowls, right? So let's imagine that I had a bowl here with a cup of sugar and some water in it, and I stirred it all up, right? And in my middle bowl, I had a cup of olive oil. And over here, I had a cup of flour and some water. Like when you're little, you used to make glue and stuff, right? Flour and water was how you started it. So if you mix that up, it would be gummy and sticky, right? In your hands. So imagine most of the foods that you're eating over the holidays are in category bowl 1 and 2, right? Lots of flour, lots of sugar. So if you think about when you pulled your hand out of the bowl with sugar water, your fingers would be sticky. Right? So the same thing is happening in our body when we're eating this excess sugar. So sticky across the brain, right? Sticky with neural connections. Sticky in how our body is working, sticky in the joints, sticky in how our muscles are working. If you think about the flour, right? Gummy, gluey, right? So the same thing. So that's what's happening. Even though that's what's going in our body and we don't see it, that's how our body begins to function. Gluey, sticky, slow, right? Gummy. And that's why we start to feel that way. But if you think about like the olive oil, it's going to be smooth, right? So incorporating more healthy fats in your diet, we kind of got scared of fat. And there was this big push to everything to be non-fat, all of that. They took all the fat out, and of course it didn't taste good, so they started adding sugar. And so now, for the past probably 25, 30 years, we've all become very, very addicted to sugar. It's in everything. It's in bread now. I mean, why is there sugar in bread? It doesn't need to be, but it is. If you look at your label of your bread at home, it's probably going to be sugar as probably the 3rd ingredient in there. Why? It's in everything. So that's kind of what's happened as they took out the fat. The fat is actually really good for your brain. Your brain is, it runs off of high quality fats. So be thinking about, when you're making your recipes over the holiday season, about kind of transitioning out some sugars, just things that are less high glycemic type sugars, and putting in more healthy fats. So adding more olive oil, adding more coconut oils, avocados, things like that. There's so many things that you can make using avocados. I mean, you can make, chocolate mousse and all kinds of things with avocado. And you would never think that, just cocoa powder and avocado.